You are looking at the final resting place for the Camp Logan soldiers who were hanged the morning of December 11th, 1917 at the Fort Sam Houston National Cemetery. This is not their first place of rest, by the way, which was a nondescript area with nothing but the numbers 1 through 13 where the bodies had been buried. 20 years later, they were exhumed and moved to the current location, and just this year, a marker designating their story was unveiled. Attorney Jason Holtz has a particular interest in all things Camp Logan. He is a descendant of Private First Class Thomas Hawkins, one of the 13 hanged that December morning. Mr. Holtz, thank you for joining me this morning, and we appreciate your story. Tell me about this. How early in your life were you made aware of the family connection with Private Hawkins?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. But going back to a very young child, we always heard the story of what happened. And one of his brothers was also a Buffalo soldier. He was in the 10th Cavalry. So the story has rotated throughout the family historically since 1917.
So what have you been able to find out throughout this time about Thomas Hawkins, the soldier, and his immediate family at that time?
Well, quite a bit, actually. So he joined the Army after receiving a letter from his older brother, again, who was in the 10th Cavalry, beseeching him to come join up. It's going to be really good. You'll earn a good living. You'll have medical benefits. And I need you here, and we can go off to the Philippines together. Kind of started with that. About a month later, he left his house and traveled to Raleigh and signed up and joined up for a 7-year term. Mm-hmm. So that was in October of 1914. And that's really where his saga begins with the Army.
And so his Army travels brought him to Houston, and then we know what the problems that led up to Camp Logan. We have a picture of him now on the screen there. And how can you know? We know that litigation is underway now for clemency. You're a part of that as well. As an attorney, you know all about litigation. Describe the experience of this effort to get clemency on behalf of your relative.
Well, it's been a long process, and there's been various iterations of an attempt to get relief for the families, and that has gone on over a number of years. And I have to tell you that it's gratifying just to see the movement, just to have the sense that people now are beginning to understand that what took place on that fateful evening and the resulting trial and court-martial really was a miscarriage of justice. And to understand that as a family member and to be able to project that out to others has been very important, not just for me, but for the other descendants as well.
What do you say to people who say, you know, somebody had to be responsible for those civilian deaths? How do you know that Private Hawkins was not one of those?
Well, that's quite interesting. Well, with specificity, what you see in the background behind me is the first page of a letter that he wrote to his mother and father the morning that he was going to be executed. And as a part of that letter, he indicates that he's not guilty for the trouble that took place in Houston and the resulting court-martial. And I can tell you exactly what he said, or at least a portion of what he said. Mm-hmm. You know, part of his letter indicates that he was a very, very religious person. I'm sentenced to be hanged for the trouble that happened in Houston, Texas, although I am not guilty of the crime that I am accused of. But Mother, if it is God's will that I go now and in this way, I am going to look for you and the family if possible. I will meet you at the river. And the letter goes on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But from our family's vantage point, certainly if you're about to be executed and you write a letter like that indicating that you're not guilty of the crime of which you are accused, then we have every reason to believe that that is in fact the case.
How important is it for you and your family to have clemency? What difference is it going to make 105 years later? People will ask that question.
Well, I think one of the things that is the most cherished in life is your good name. He comes from a good family. He has a good name. And to retrieve that and to be able to uplift that spirit is extremely important. Everyone wants to maintain and cherish their good name. And also, who knows what he would have turned out to be? Who knows what he would have become? He was a very intelligent person. He could have become anything he wanted. And to have some closure for the family is very important.
Well, we look forward to having the results of the clemency in very short order, hopefully. And we look forward to talking with you about that on the other side. Jason Holt, thank you so much for your time. Good luck in your hearing, and we look forward to hearing back when you hear anything.
Thank you very much for having me here today.
You're welcome, sir.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.